My classmate Peter didn't fit in. He was weak, introverted, and poor, often wearing the same dirty shirt for days. But there was something about his eyes. They were sharp and clear. Even when his classmates beat him up and left his body covered in bruises, you could tell by his eyes that he wasn't hurt. He also didn't participate in class unless the teacher asked him to. Then he would stand up, give the correct answer, and sit down again. It was during summer break when I saw Peter lying on a field. I lied down next to him and asked how he was. He responded, "I'm great. It's just a beautiful day." And I stayed with him until sunset. "Don't you want to go home?" "I don't think my family wants me." "You can't stay here through the night. Why don't you come sleep at my home?" "Wow, thank you. That would be awesome." I brought him home, but my mom wasn't happy. She said, "Why did you bring this bum here? Look how dirty he is." Well, I made Peter take a shower and then I gave him my blanket so he could sleep on my floor. But by the next morning, he was already gone. I didn't see him again until school started, and right during the first break, the other boys wanted to beat him up. But I went in between and told them to stop. "Leave him alone. He might be different, but that doesn't allow you to hurt him."
Good luck defending him, little girl.
The boy pushed me away so he could attack Peter, but that's when I started screaming as loud as I could. I wasn't hurt, but I pretended I was. When a teacher arrived, I said, "He smashed my head on the ground."
She's lying. Don't believe her.
"Seems like we have to call your parents into school again."
But I didn't do anything.
"So you want to tell me that this poor girl is lying?" The teacher took the boy by his ear and dragged him away. Peter said, "Thank you, but I don't mind if they beat me up." "Don't act silly. You need some friends to defend you. By the way, you want to come pick strawberries with me in the afternoon?"
I would love to do that.
Well, after we had filled 2 baskets of strawberries, we sat down under a tree. It was the first time I realized that Peter was actually quite handsome. I said, "Why are you so different?" And he responded, "I don't know." But I liked how he was different, so I cuddled myself against his shoulder. I felt comfortable with him because I knew he didn't judge me. And when it got dark, I asked, "Can I give you a kiss?" He nodded, and for a few seconds, I felt complete. Afterward, we became best friends, often walking through the fields and talking about our futures. I was surprised when one day he told me he wanted to move to the big city. He said school bored him and I should follow him. I said, "We're only 15, and my parents would never allow that."
If they want the best for you, they will.
I don't think my parents would understand. He didn't respond, but the next day in school his chair was empty, so I went to his home. His mother opened the door and looked completely drunk. She screamed, "What do you want?" Is Peter here?"
No, but if you show me where he is, I'm gonna give him a few slaps.
Peter had run away and left me behind. I was lonely and often wondered if Peter and I would ever see each other again. I wasn't sure, but after I graduated high school, I moved to California to study law. It was different than what I had expected. I missed the beautiful fields and nature I had grown up with. And I also still thought about Peter. We had only been together for 6 months when we were 15, but he was the only guy I'd ever loved. Of course, I had other guys interested in me in college, but I found them shallow and boring. But to stop feeling lonely, I started dating Michael. He was extremely ambitious and worked all day, which meant I didn't have to talk to him much. We had been together for 2 years when Peter called me on my phone. He asked if he could meet me at a cafe, and of course I said yes. Suddenly my hopes were up again. Maybe we could get back together and be as happy as we were in high school. When I first saw him, it felt so right. I fell into his arms and hugged him for minutes. Of course he was, as always, blunt and not interested in small talk. We sat down and he explained why he'd come to visit me. He said, "I wanted to thank you for how you protected me back in school. Growing up, I had no one who loved or cared about me, except you. Therefore, I brought you a gift." He handed me a check that read $300,000. I said, "No, I don't want your money. I want to know how you are and what you're doing." "Well, I'm mostly working, and I'm good at it. Money doesn't mean much for me, so I brought you the check hoping it would make your life a bit easier." "Are you happy?" I asked, and he looked away, saying, "I'm fine." "Do you have a girlfriend?" "No, I don't." For a moment, I was the happiest girl in the world. I was sure he had come to get back with me, but why wasn't he asking me out? Maybe he was too shy, so I said, "Do you still like me?" "Of course." "And have you ever thought about us two getting back together?" "I have thought about it, but I know it wouldn't work out." My heart crumbled and I asked, "Why not?" "You know I love you, and you know I would do anything for you, but I need a girl who is as smart as me and understands me. If I was with you, I would always feel lonely and only drag you down." You can imagine how much his words hurt, even though he didn't mean it in a bad way. He was just as blunt as always. I said, "Well, I want you to be happy too," but I couldn't hold back my tears. "Don't cry. You'll find a guy that makes you happy." Well, I didn't want to burden Peter any further, so I smiled and said, "Of course, I will find the right guy someday," even though I knew it was a lie. At the end, he said, "Just take the check." Then he stood up and left. Today, I'm still with Michael. He recently started talking about getting kids. He doesn't seem to notice how unhappy I am with him. Don't get me wrong, he's a great guy who treats me well, so I will give my best to make him happy. I know he deserves it.